hello, beautiful people. Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Welcome to day 2 of Extraordinary Women in Tech. You are in the Technology and Innovation track. If you want to be in the Technology and Innovation track, you're in the right place. If it wasn't where you meant to be, congratulations, you made it to the best track anyway, so stay put. I'm very excited to introduce our first speaker for this morning, Swapna Savant. Swapna is the Director of Engineering at Headspace Health and currently leading the engineering teams responsible for expanding the platform capabilities for Fortune 500 companies and enterprise partners. Sounds pretty impressive, right? There's more. She has 19 plus years of industry experience in building large-scale systems and high-performing teams. She's highly passionate about improving diversity and inclusion in tech. Yes, thank you, Swapna. And helping professionals trying to step into their new roles. So with that in mind, she recently started and is a founder of Adapt Up, which is a community that helps people step into new roles. Please join me in welcoming Swapna to the stage.
All right, you all can hear me? I'm sorry, I get nervous when it's all about the screen, about the mic and all that. So I first want to make sure that everybody can hear me and I can click it. See, it's not working for me. Okay, there you go. Okay, I'm going to actually just skim through this slide because actually, thank you so much, for the introduction. I'd never mentioned the years that I have been in technology. It's 19 plus years. That kind of gives away my age. But at the same time, like a little bit more about myself, I'm an immigrant, came from India, and being an Indian, there were 2 professions that were kind of quote unquote allowed. It was either engineering or a doctor. And I chose engineering because I was like, doctor, that's too much work. I'm not going to do that. Fast forward now, have been in the leadership role for quite some time. Got into the leadership as an happy accident, I would say, because I loved it. I loved the job when I was doing it. But at the same time, realized that not many people actually get the training that is needed to get into management, because from engineering to management is a career transition. And that's why Adapt Up came into picture. Adapt Up is a community where I help people to adapt to the new role. With that in mind, I would like to jump into today's topic, and that is innovation, disruption versus innovation. Before I even get started, let me first make a statement. Disruption, innovation, and technology are not the same. Yes, those are like the buzzwords, and nowadays we also have heard digitization, and those are the buzzwords that we like to and tend to use nowadays. Those are the words that we will be using if we want to do strategy, if you want to get some budget from your leadership, if you want to convince your board members that how great your technology is, please use all these words. They love it, yes. But now, getting deeper and trying to understand really what you are trying to, if you are trying to make a dent into the market, if you're trying to make a dent into human and into mankind, let's all face it. Disruption and innovation is not the same. And technology definitely does not come into the same page when it comes to disruption. That's a myth right now. Why this topic is important? In today's world, the business is changing, and it is like, it's no longer, we never talk about decades now. We talk about quarters, we talk about months, and things just keep changing fast. Everything that we knew about in last maybe 6 months have already changed. There are new things that are coming into the market. It is always a common, I would say it's really important for all of us, and it is a common struggle. How are we going to keep ourselves up to date with this market? And when we think about really getting into innovation, how are we actually going to even make sure we are able to get there while thinking about upgrading your technology, thinking about the disruption that you want to make, and thinking about innovation? The business keeps changing nowadays. So let's talk a little bit about innovation first. Thinking about innovation, there are three things that come to my mind. I'm not sure whether you all know about Sophia. Sophia is an AI robot. She has a citizenship in Saudi Arabia. There was like a very disturbing news that I read a couple of months back that she's actually thinking of having a baby. So I was like, I mean, that's technology getting too far, but let's give it to them. We also know about CERN. CERN is actually, they're doing something pretty cool. They're thinking about making a particle which will actually beat the speed of light. If that really happens, we can travel time. Can you imagine if you can start looking at your future before even getting there? You might be able to change it. And EWiT. EWiT is flying taxis. They really wanted to, Uber, fine, there are like optimism in there is pessimism in that, but let's give it to them. They are actually trying to make flying taxis right now, which will be pretty cool if it actually happens. All of them are innovation, yes, totally. Darwin actually had said this once. It's not about which is the smartest species that is going to survive. It is about which is the species who is able to adapt and adapt faster. Those are those species, they are going to survive. And we made a statement that we cannot do it during COVID times. We all ran back to our homes, made sure that we stay safe there. So it's not humankind. It's about trying to figure out which is the species who can survive and survive well when a change happens. Now that we understand what innovation really means, let's try to define it. It's about the idea about generation and idea evaluation. Now, I use the word generation, I use the word idea evaluation, and at the end we also talk about a successful market launch. There are actually three things that you need to really think about, three phases when you're talking about innovation. The first is inspiration phase. Inspiration phase is stepping to the audience, trying to understand their pain points, trying to really observe them, trying to understand what are the things they are trying to do to get around their pain points, and then trying to understand whether you can actually resolve that pain point. If you notice, I did not even talk about technology yet. It is just studying your audience, trying to understand what they are trying to achieve and what their true pain point is. Then comes the ideation phase, where you actually take back everything that you learned from your inspiration phase and then ask yourself three questions. Only three questions. What is technologically feasible? The second question is, what is financially feasible? And the third question is, where exactly is the product market fit for this? Those are the three questions you ask. And the last is you actually get into the implementation phase where you try to understand how you are going to actually deliver and what are your beta customers. Sadly, most of the companies nowadays are into ideation and implementation phase. They are not thinking about the inspiration because, and the reason behind that is you go to your audience by taking your technology with you and telling them this is feasible and this is not feasible with your technology, which is with your current technology. Whenever you think about technology first while innovating, you're not innovating. You're just trying to find a product market fit. You're just trying to understand whether there is a way for you to make a business out of it. You're not trying to put a dent in the market. You're not trying to put a dent into the humankind. You're just taking your technology and trying, quote unquote, make an impact to somebody's life. And because of which, whenever you think about ideation phase, most of the companies, first thing they talk about is beta customers. The beta customers are well-refined, defined, and also evaluated customers which actually fit your persona, who will understand that this is what you can actually deliver to them. So now that I told you what I can deliver to you, tell me your problems. If you try to do it the other way around, if you actually try to think about, not thinking about the technology, but actually thinking about somebody's pain point, you will truly understand what they are actually going through and not try to put some technology around it. Innovation is human. Innovation is not technology. What truly currently the market and business demands is to have a human-centric approach to all the problems that you currently have. To understand a human, to understand what they are truly going through, before even trying to talk about what is feasible, what you can actually provide. Digitization is a part of innovation, agreed. It is a form, it is a way for you to innovate. It is not the only way to innovate. Digitization talks about everything computerized, everything mobile, everything AI, everything machine learning. But that is not the only way to actually innovate. If you think about a human-centric approach, you will actually be able to innovate faster. Now let's talk about disruption. We talked a lot about innovation. We understand now that innovation is about human-centric approach. What exactly is the difference between innovation and actually a disruption in the market? There are actually 11 types of innovation, and in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through this whole slide, but I will definitely point out into few. You have seen many companies changing the organizational structure, trying to manage and trying to change their organization in a way that they are able to share resources amongst each other. That's innovation. Technology is not into picture. It's all about process innovation. It's nothing to do with making any changes to the world. It is trying to help their own business by innovating and making sure that they are able to run leaner and run faster. There is another kind of innovation which talks more about customer engagement, which is a new way in which a business can communicate to their customers. A disruption happens when the moment you come into the market, somebody loses their business. For example, you all must have used GPS, Garmin, or am I too old to even talk about it? You have? Thank God. So before Google Maps came in, everybody had a GPS in their car. Everybody had that Garmin thing, which like you put right there and then it works and you go to the destination you want to. Then the maps get older, you figure out how to upgrade it or you buy a new one. And then Google Maps came in. Within a day, GPS was no longer a thing, the Garmin GPS. SpaceX, they are trying right now to help people travel to anywhere in this world within 30 minutes. SpaceX is trying to do that. That's not disruption, that's innovation, sure. The disruption comes when the second phase of their actual invention might happen, and that is they want to do it in a way that anybody can afford it. They want it to be like a domestic flight. All of a sudden, you are actually competing with the global market because you can go anywhere. And being US citizens, most of the time, like you don't even need visas nowadays, right? Most of the countries allow US citizens to be without visas. So there you go. So SpaceX is actually trying to make that happen, and that's disruption. That's where you are actually trying to not just hit the global market, but you're also trying to make sure that people start thinking and people start visualizing and imagining something which is above their imagination, above their current even expectations. So disruption is when a new product or technology enters the market, causing successful firms to struggle. That's when actually disruption happens. Before we even get into perception and reality, it's whenever you think about a disruption piece and whenever you think about innovation, what is actually holding us back from doing that? Why, as a humankind, we always start thinking about what is feasible and what is not feasible? The reason around that is also the biases that we individual people have. Perception and reality is also not the same. To give you a little bit more idea about perception and reality, at every second, human brain can actually look into 11,000 bits of information. And you are actually processing only 40 bits of information every second. And guess what? That 40 bit of information that you're processing are those bits which you are familiar with. Right now also, each one of you are looking at me, and you have a perception about me. And that perception is the perception that actually makes you feel comfortable, whatever that may be. And that's the biases we all have. Now, if you think about that for a second, and you put that 40 bits aside, and try to take those 40 bits which makes you uncomfortable, that's where innovation will happen. And that's the most difficult part for any humankind to actually go into that unfamiliar area. Example, I'm an Indian. I'm 5'3". I'm not wearing heels, but this is Rothy's, by the way, something that I actually got like 3 or 4 months back. This is an Indian woman standing in front of you. The 40 bits of you has already analyzed me from top to bottom. Totally fine. 40 bits of you have already also analyzed how an Asian woman will put a makeup on, how a white American woman will put a makeup on. Totally fine. Now, if you start thinking about it more and more deeper, and if you start thinking about how can I make an Indian Asian woman feel more comfortable by putting some makeup on her, which she might not feel like comfortable with, to do it by herself. Those are the places where innovation happens, which is not something that any one of us will even think about. And there are different aspects to it. Again, like I don't want to get into the biases because that's not the topic that we are trying to talk right now. But there is a lot of biases around it, which makes us get into the things that we are comfortable with. And that's why we also think about, when we talk about disruption or innovation, we are talking about something we are more, it feels home to us. It's more feasible for us to even have that conversation. That's where we actually get stuck into. The ideas are meaningless unless you know what your customer values the most. For example, going back to the example I gave you, if you start thinking about me and if you want to give me some makeup that which I might not feel comfortable with, but it will look good on me, but I don't want it, what are you going to do about it then? So putting yourself into something, and everything that I'm talking about right now has nothing to do with technology yet. So all of these conversations, once you start having, that's when you actually are thinking about making a drastic change in the society, or making a drastic change into the field that you belong to. And for that, you have to keep technology aside before you actually start. That's where you actually need to spend a lot of time in inspiration. Before I even talk about technology, as I'm into mental health, I have to talk about mental health a little bit. Mental health is also something that right now, like when you think about wellness, when you think about prevention, it's more about how can you make mental health be a day-to-day thing for anyone. Like for example, Apple Watch, they added breathe in it. They are trying to put wellness into your ecosystem. They started it in a way, because now they're trying to disrupt their market. When they started iWatch first, and if they would have put breathe in it, why would anybody buy? So they first introduced iWatch by trying to add things that you all will like. And then now they are trying to add more things and trying to disrupt your ecosystem by introducing you to something that is unknown. But have we done any disruption in mental health? No. We are only right now making mental health, by therapy, by coaching, by adding apps, we are making it more and more sustainable. We have not yet tried to disrupt the market yet. With that in mind, when you think about technology, always think about technology as a founder for new markets or as a vehicle for innovation. Like when you think about founder of new markets, social media. We have changed the way social media works. We have changed how the media works right now. But remember, with that in mind, by changing the media, we have also changed how human thinks about media. So first we thought about your audience, that is humans. We changed the technology and we disrupted the market. Social media came into existence. Media, the way we think about media, it has completely changed. Now go back and revisit your audience. Now your audience has also the role of your audience has pivoted. If you make a disruption but still think your audience are the same old 50s audience, you're again fighting a lost battle. It's like 50 years back when my parents never used to think about physical fitness. Like, I have never seen my father going for a run or something, but now physical fitness is like your day-to-day thing. You get up in the morning, you have your own routine, most of us do, running, meditating, whatever that is. Similarly, our grandkids are going to think about meditation, mental health, therapy as their day-to-day thing. They're going to get up in the morning and just make a call and have a therapist, like have a coffee with therapist maybe. I don't know what that is going to look like. But right now, we don't talk about it. Even if we are going for a therapy, we don't talk about it. So that's disruption. But then your audience are changing. Remember, their role is pivoting at that point. Similar as a vehicle for innovation, experimentation was not a thing earlier on. Only big companies used to do experimentation, but right now anybody can make any kind of experimentation, and before even launching anything in the market, they are actually testing out the market. And as enhancer of human capabilities, well, that's a topic by itself. For example, designers. Figma, there are so many different innovations that have happened into that field that right now a designer can actually put forth a product in front of you. You clickety click and it actually works, and then people think that engineers can do it. If designers can do it in a day, the engineers should be able to do it in maybe 2 days. So that's the enhancer. There is like pessimism also in it, because now you're actually trying to get into humans' brains. So technology is always a starting point and it is always an enabler. But now, going back to how you're going to make sure that your company, or if you are currently working in a company, you're being more resilient to this technology. Always build a system that is resilient to continue to carry out your mission while facing the adversity. I specifically mentioned it as an adversity because a change in the market is an adversity. Right now, the market is changing. Startups are the one who are actually getting hit the most, of course. Inflation happened, we have to do this cross correction. We all are going to go through this generation of correcting ourselves and making sure the evaluation makes sense. That's adversity. So now, how you're going to balance your technology in a way that you can sustain in this adversity while also thinking about your innovations. And to do that, business continuity while focusing on technology maturity is absolutely important, because if you think about innovation, you have to build an infrastructure in place which will actually help you mature, which will actually help your technology mature in a way that when you're trying to build those pieces and make an iterative change in your model, it actually works for you. And you're not trying to say that, okay, for next 3 quarters, nobody builds anything because we are going to disrupt the market and we are going to sit in a black room and make a change happen. That's not how world functions anymore. You will always have to keep your business going while building your innovation, while coming in forefront of this market technologies. The way we actually go about it is we do have certain philosophies that we have put in place, and this is what we call as technology culture. We have talked about technology in various fields. We talk about culture when it comes to leadership, when we talk about culture when it comes to company culture, organization culture. But there is also something called as technology culture. Technology culture is like, what are the top 7 or 5 things that is absolutely necessary for your company when you're building your systems and when you're trying to put your infrastructure in place. I'll not go through each and every one of it, but for us, being in healthcare, security and compliance and privacy consciousness is absolutely important, because we strongly believe that our members' data, specifically because it's about mental health, is absolutely essential, and we do not share that information to anyone. And the last piece here is about fostering psychological safety. If you want your team, if you want your engineers to be bold enough to make a change in engineering culture that will build disruption in the market, it is absolutely essential for them to know that they can actually make it happen by speaking out in your company's all hands, or in your team meetings. Most of your disruptions will happen within your team. The ideas for disruptions will come within your team, because they are the one who are building your system, and they are the one who are also listening to your customers. So you do not really have to set to a path of trying to find where is the next big disruption that is coming, that is taking place. It usually happens within the company. For example, when pandemic happened, most of the companies started thinking about how the hybrid work culture is going to look like. Many of them have come up with technologies to help companies go through that hybrid work culture, and that actually happened within the company. The engineers, the product managers started coming up with ideas of how they can help each other in this pandemic times. And that's how they actually pivoted and got, there are really cool tools out there to help people even understand if you are in a Zoom meeting, if somebody is actually not paying attention. Those are the things that happened within the company culture. These are just some of the references of the tech talk. If you're really interested in disruption and understanding how actually innovation happens, there is a tech talk by Wendy. She is one of the person who has talked a lot about disruption technology and why they are not the same. And specifically, she talks about some of the innovations that are happening in our current marketplace. Thank you.
Swapna. I'm going to ask you to stay up here just for a moment. We do have time for a few questions.
Okay.
So, yes, go right ahead. I'm going to bring the mic to you so we can hear.
I had this prepared ahead of time.
I can tell you were ready.
Thank you so much for your speech. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about your background, if that's okay, and specifically, actually, it kind of ties in with AdaptUp, your company. I was wondering, in your career, you were a developer at for some time, and I was wondering, what kind of advice would you give to somebody in deciding whether or not they want to go towards a principal engineer route, or if they want to go into managing, and what are things to consider, and maybe how did you make that decision as well?
Yeah, sure. This is a topic I'm having with my engineers right now, because they are thinking about what is the career route they want to take. So I'll first talk about how I went through it, and then I'll definitely end this question with some of the key takeaways that I have. When I started my career as an engineer, I started it as a fluke, as I said. It was either engineer or doctor. It was not something that I was thinking that I wanted to be an engineer. But sooner, I realized that I actually loved being a developer. I loved pioneering technologies. I was in a company, Oracle, for 5 years, and I was part of their clinical trial, which is something I really was passionately, I really enjoyed the way the clinical trial system actually works. But soon I realized that if I had to get my creative juices going, then startup is the land, because you can wear multiple hats, you can try multiple things. And I joined a company called SpringPath, which later got acquired. But in SpringPath, I joined SpringPath because they told me I have free hands, you can get into any technology and build the system for them. And I pioneered Golang there, and that time Angular React.js was like a battle. But I also later realized, because I was hiring engineers to build the system for them, that I actually enjoyed building teams that will actually deliver. For example, I used to have pride when I used to build something and demo something, but now I take pride when somebody pings me and says that, by the way, this engineer that you hired is really doing a good job. And I feel amazing, like I actually respond to those kind of messages saying that I know he is great or she is great because I hired them. So I actually take pride in them. I actually enjoy when I'm trying to push people into speaking or I'm trying to push people into demoing something. I enjoy that now. So it was a natural fit for me to get into leadership. I did not struggle there because I enjoyed it. But at the same time, I do know people do struggle. And the reason for them to struggle is because if you're trying to figure out whether you want to be a principal or you want to be a management, I would highly recommend two things. One is take mentorship. There are a lot of tools, like there is Plato, there are other mentorship tools out there where you can talk to other people who are living your future and understand how they actually got there. Talk to them, understand whether actually they enjoy it and also talk to somebody who moved to that role and then moved back. There are many who become a manager and then move back to ICs. Talk to them too. And the last piece to that is talk to your manager and try to see if there is a hybrid role for you to begin with. Try to mentor people and see if you actually enjoy spending your time mentoring somebody and if you really enjoy to see their success. Because it's not easy. It's not easy to spend hours and days explaining somebody and pushing somebody to move to a next level. Because if you don't like it, there is nothing for you in there. But if you enjoy it, there is everything for you in there.
Thank you. I think we have another question here.
Thank you for the talk. I think the first thing that you talked about is inspiration. If we look at the most successful businesses out there today, I don't think they started with inspiration. I think to grab people's attention or even to build an infrastructure that lasts longer. If you want to learn, keep the machine learning models running, you need infrastructures and servers which are not eco-friendly, right? So on a big picture, sometimes it contradicts with your values, and how do you balance that part of inspiration? I think that's my question.
Got it. Okay. So making an innovation, okay, and disrupting the market and being eco-friendly, again, three different things. If you want to be eco-friendly, that's another level of getting there. Agreed? So now, inspiration, in every single company, for example, let's talk about a machine learning model, okay? Because there are various aspects to your thing. I'm just going to pick machine learning model. I was in Entello. And Entello was all about making recruiting automated. We were building models to make sure that we basically were literally scraping all the candidate data and trying to make sure that whenever any company opens a role, they will have the list of candidates for them right there. We then started adding models to there saying most likely to move. After 2 years, you're most likely to move. Sure. Most likely to, there were a lot of badges that we created for candidates. But the disruption happened in that when we built a model which will uplift a candidate depending upon their peers. For example, if you have a male candidate, they will add, and I'm not saying every males do that, by the way, okay? Statistically it is said that men will add all the skills that they are familiar with. Women won't. So we built a model that will say, given that this person, of course a woman, is a peer of this other candidate, and this candidate is saying that these are the skills that this candidate is aware of, maybe this woman also does. And we ran that model, and my profile was actually uplifted from LinkedIn. And I realized that there were so many skills that I had not added in LinkedIn. And I never realized it. I never did it by purpose because I'm not humble. I used to be, not anymore. I'm not. But it's just a mindset. Like, I never added, for example, I will never add machine learning in my skill set because I'm not an ML engineer. I was an API engineer. But apparently, given that I know so much about ML models now, ML is a skill set I should be adding if I go with what men do. There you go. So it's not about, I'm not saying that companies out there are all about, the successful companies are doing all about inspiration. But it's about when you are thinking about really putting a dent into the world, like what Steve Jobs said. He really wanted to put a dent in the market. You can do that by actually studying your audience and then telling them what they need. Did you even know that we need this kind of a model for women? We didn't. We realized it after looking at data. We realized it after actually looking at people. I didn't know that I was doing it, but somebody who was studying these profiles realized that I'm doing it. So I never wanted this model. It just happened to me, if that makes sense. But it's a big topic, I agree.
All right, we have 2 more questions, so we're going to have to move quickly. So let me come over here.
Hi, Swapna. Thank you so much for breaking down innovation into inspiration, ideation, and implementation. I feel like we as engineers, we do fairly well at ideation. We obviously love implementation, but these phases are more structured. You can actually make sense of the chaos. However, inspiration can be all over the place. It's very unstructured. So, do you have any advice? Maybe as engineers, how do we actually make sense of that inspiration? How do you try to bring some order into the chaos that you see? So would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, do something that we are not trained to do, and that's networking. And network outside engineering field. If you start talking to products, design, marketing, finance, you will learn a lot from them. You will learn a lot about what are the actual customer pain points. Engineers are actually, I feel engineers are the people who actually bring a product to life. But they are also boxed into technology. So if you start thinking beyond technology, and the only way to do it is actually starting to network with people who are not engineers, unfortunately, because 5 engineers sit together and you will start talking about the next creation that you all can make together. You will start talking about how we can actually start deploying and we have to wait for 1 minute to the deployment to complete. How can we make it shorter? But if you start having conversations with others, you will actually get to know what is happening out there. That's how I learned.
Well said. Okay, last question.
Hello. First of all, compliments to you because I feel like you're a very specific example of why I even came here today. You're amazing. My dream role, especially being involved with health in the mental setting. I want to take you back to when you were talking about how we are making mental health more accessible through apps like Headspace, but we're not disrupting it. I wanted to ask more about what you meant by not creating the disruption yet. Does disruption entail being able to replace therapists online, or is it more neurodivergent? Are we looking into science and collecting more data for that?
Yeah, so no, I don't think so we can replace therapist or coaching. But when I say that we are not yet disrupting, it's because we are making it more sustainable. For example, even for Headspace, we are wellness and prevention, but unfortunately, most of our customers download Headspace when they need help. We do not think about, and come on, will you, I wouldn't be surprised if almost all of you tell me that you don't meditate or you don't think about your wellness, because there is no need for us to think about it unless there is a need.
Until you need it.
And until you need it, you have actually crossed that line of wellness to actually needing some help, right? and the disruption will happen. And that's why I gave the example of Apple. They are trying to introduce breathe, just breathe. So there is a lot that we need to do that. We cannot replace therapy. We cannot replace coaching. And what Headspace or any other apps are currently doing is we are making sure that they are available to you right there, right then, because we want to make sure that if when you need help, you have it. You don't have to wait for it. That we got it. We got all of you covered. But what about making it as your lifestyle? And how to make it as your lifestyle? I don't have an answer for that. Similarly, 50 years back, we didn't have an answer of how to make physical fitness your lifestyle. So there will be something that will happen. Hopefully, I will be the one who will try to figure it out. Hopefully, let's see. Or you all, who knows? But we need to disrupt that market to the way that when you get up in the morning, you go for a run or whatever the routine you have, and then you also think about your mental health for a second at least. That's what I meant.
Thank you.